Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center at 5050 North High Street. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.com.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows online at wcbe.org. I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Johnny DiLoretto, and this is Cinema Classics.
Cinema Classics.
Right there, big as life.
All right.
Yeah.
I just want to lay something out here.
Okay. It's your show.
No, it's our show, but I thought that I might give you the 10, what I think made probably the 10 best movies of the 90s, and see which one I left out.
Okay.
Okay?
Go ahead.
I'm running through it now. A mutual favorite, Unforgiven.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Dances with Wolves.
Okay.
Crying Game, my personal favorite.
All right, I would switch that out with maybe The English Patient.
Oh, excellent. Secrets and Lies.
I would switch that out with
don't
maybe
start.
The Matrix.
Anyway, Sixth Sense, Shawshank.
Sixth
I know,
Sense?
I'm just saying.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Thelma and Louise.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with that.
Forrest Gump.
Didn't make the argument.
Did I forget one?
Yeah, Schindler's List.
Okay, good.
And the other one, the one we're showing on Sunday, June 8th at the Gateway Film Center as part of our Cinema Classics film series, Film and Brunch series, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, gosh.
Now, isn't it bizarre to think that Pulp Fiction is actually a classic? I mean, it's
Yes.
a classic now. 94. In 1994, those are classic years now.
Oh, yeah. And look at that. As I thought about that 90s, I'm thinking back to the 70s.
Yeah.
You can't beat the 70s, but that 90s is pretty strong.
Oh, it's great. I would argue that the 94 to 96 is the last great hurrah for American filmmaking.
Oh, yeah. So we're looking at Pulp Fiction, and I can't wait to see it again. It has been 20 years since I've seen it. You know, you're talking Silence of the Lambs, Unforgiven. You're talking top-notch films, but I think
Goodfellas.
Oh, I think Pulp Fiction may be more, how should I say it, notorious or more highly thought of than any of the ones that I have called, only because everybody knows Pulp Fiction, and not just because it's volatile, incendiary, whatever it is. What do you think? Is that?
No, I think you're right. I would say it's certainly the most influential movie of the past 25 years.
That's
I mean,
yes.
I can remember seeing it for the first time and just having my mind blown, you know. And you mentioned the 70s. It is, Tarantino is in love with all films.
Yes.
You know, he's a through and through a cinephile, but he has particular fondness for the films of the 70s, and I think that's what most influenced his tone and his approach. That slow, kind of scenes that build, a lot of character, you know, kind of gritty, grimy details.
Taking the commonplace and then building up into something horrific.
Yes, right.
And you're talking about his love of film, and I discovered one that I didn't know, and that this is typical Tarantino. When they dance, Travolta and
Uma Thurman,
every movement is copied from Fellini's 8.5.
Is that right?
From the dance. I didn't either.
Yeah, that's
I said,
terrific.
this guy is such a wog.
Oh,
Oh,
he's
my
great. So, look, you have a movie, whenever you have a Tarantino movie, and Pulp Fiction is no different than the other ones, they are steeped in his love of cinema. There are references, just like that.
Yeah.
You know, references you're getting, references you're missing, but they're there. Just for a second, imagine, you know, it's hard to argue that Schindler's List is a better or worse film, or Unforgiven is a better or worse film, or Goodfellas. But certainly when you talk about the influence of a movie and a movie maker, after Pulp Fiction, you know, the kind of sly, self-referential dialogue that peppered his film, characters talking about TV shows they like, or arguing about breakfast cereal, or whatever the case may be. That kind of tone was so copied and imitated. Also, the sort of crime picture with sudden comic bursts of violence.
Bruce Willis's character.
Colorful gangster characters. Yeah. It became so passé and like rote, you know. And in some ways, John, it ruined contemporary cinema.
It did. It certainly altered. I think you're right. I love the
Foul
word
with those
influential,
kind of-
which is the one I like for, say, Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a minute, will you please?
Yeah, sure.
I know I wasn't seeing correctly.
Oh,
Anyway.
Wait, this show's not the show without you and some sunglasses.
To support what you were saying,
Yeah.
Elvis Mitchell of the New York Times called this the first masterwork of the postmodern pop culture, which is exactly
That's
what you-
interesting.
yeah. Or, if you don't like that, then think about what he said about Tarantino. He said that he has, this is a journey, Pulp Fiction, through the demi-monde that springs entirely from Mr. Tarantino's ripe imagination.
Yeah.
A landscape of danger, shock, hilarity, and vibrant local color. Isn't that good?
That's
I mean,
great.
yeah.
And it's true. I would say that, the sort of postmodern movement began with Sergio Leone and those spaghetti westerns, which are totally calling attention to all to the artifice and the technique of westerns that came before it, and punctuating them,
Right.
exacerbating them, blowing them up, and then winking at them.
Yeah.
And without Sergio Leone, I don't think you get Tarantino.
Okay,
You
right.
know, that's where his operatic kind of grandeur comes from. And those scenes like in *Inglourious Bastards* where what's his name, Christoph Waltz is interrogating the French farmer at the beginning.
Oh.
That scene is about 10,
Oh,
15
it's
minutes
magnificent.
long, and it's operatic, and
Oh,
it's,
it is
and it's
one of the
melodrama,
finest in all of film.
And that is very Leone-esque.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I see the history behind Tarantino's.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
work.
and I'm thinking about when Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson,
Mhm.
the two hitmen, are getting
Yeah.
ready to burst in that room of his college
Yeah.
students or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the sexual wattage of a foot massage
Yeah, right.
and what they call a quarter pounder in Paris.
Yeah, right. It's punctuated with all these things that people would have not thought before to be interesting dialogue.
Yes.
It's, before Pulp Fiction, that's dialogue that would have been cut. You know what I mean? It does not serve the story. It doesn't seem to serve the story. But obviously it does. It's telling you who these people are, their preoccupations with the mundane, and kind of unearthing all the subtleties and neuroses in those kind of subjects.
And like that, the couple at the beginning, Amanda Plummer
Mhm.
and
Tim Roth.
Tim Roth,
Yeah.
they're talking about whether they should continue to rob liquor stores or just rob everybody who's in that restaurant. And somebody commented, it was just like a couple planning their professional future.
Yeah,
a married couple just
Yeah.
talking about their future. This stuff. And
Just imagine, I remember, there have been violent movies before Pulp Fiction.
oh yeah.
Arguably even more violent. However, the moment when Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are in the car and they accidentally shoot the guy's brains out in the back seat,
Oh yeah.
and his brains go splattering everywhere. And the audience, I can remember, John, seeing it for the first time, how this rug pulled out from under you. The way that he built to that moment. And the tone that he set, this careful tone. You were shocked, but it elicited laughter. A sort of uneasy laughter. And yet there was something really funny and joyous about it in a disturbing way.
Yeah. Yeah.
A part of you knew it wasn't real, but a part of you was also shocked at how cavalier it was.
And didn't cleaning up the car make up a part of the scene?
Yeah,
too?
yeah, and see, that's the other beautiful part about it, is that Tarantino just didn't use those things as shock devices. Those became part of the story, and he wove that into the narrative. Yes, that's how Harvey Keitel's character gets called.
Great character.
Right? So things have consequences. Actions in his films have consequences, and consequences mean narrative. The story is being propelled.
After Bruce Willis's Butch comes back after an incredibly violent scene that he's involved in,
Yeah.
comes back to his girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just torn up, and she's upset because he's been away and so on. So he asks her, "How was your breakfast?" You know, it's
Yeah.
like, it's just that
Right.
juxtaposing the horror that he has been through and then trying to comfort her.
Right. I remember that whole thing. Like one of the lines that sticks with me, and it's not necessarily. I don't know if it's many people's favorite lines. It's one of my favorite lines from the movie, and a line that I use in my personal life to sort of communicate when I think I've just screwed something totally up, but it doesn't really matter. You know, is when he comes back from that whole thing. Bruce Willis has that big interlude, that long, violent interlude, and he comes back to the girl, and she's like, "Hey, where's the Honda?" And he goes, "I had to crash that Honda, baby. I had to crash it.
I had to crash it. I had to
you
crash
know?
it." And,
But it's so just
and don't they have
sums everything
a
up.
little dialogue? Is it that same scene, or maybe it's another one? He and his girlfriend, I presume, about her pot belly, how she wants a pot belly.
Yeah, yeah. It's so great, isn't it? Just thinking about it.
and you know, juxtaposing the mundane with the horrific, and always, I think, an emphasis on language. And that's
Yeah.
what I love, his use of language.
Sure. And the other, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Somebody else called him the postmodern boy wonder of American crass culture.
I don't know, who said that?
I don't know who said that.
I don't like the word crash.
I know,
I like
but
everything but the
it-
word crash.
It's emphatic there, isn't it?
Yeah, because I
It-
don't think he's crass.
Well,
There's an artfulness to it.
exactly. But a lot of the stuff that he's involved in is rude.
It's certainly button pushing. I mean, you know, you can remember the controversy surrounding the use of the N-word in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And then again recently in Django Unchained.
Yeah.
I do think that he's after something.
Yeah.
He, you know, it's embedded in an aesthetic patchwork and quilt work there that it has resonance in his films. It's not just meant to agitate your sensibilities, I don't think.
And you know, besides all that agitation, what about the structure of Pulp Fiction? Isn't it rather, I mean,
Well, that
does
was-
it make
that-
the way from Memento
Listen,
and
that's
others?
exactly. That's another great point. Is
Yeah.
you know, apart from the dialogue and the bursts of violence and that sort of that aesthetic, what he did with the narrative there. And again, nothing new.
Well, Orson
You know what I
Welles
mean?
screwed up the narrative.
Of
He
course,
told you everything in the first few minutes.
It's nothing new,
Right.
but it was made new again.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, think of all the movies. Everything after Pulp Fiction had to have a twist, you know. And again, you could argue that Pulp Fiction ruined a lot of cinema for a lot of its contemporary cinema because you had so many films that had to rely on the twist. The Sixth Sense was
Right,
one of them,
right.
and that even further, you know, made it worse because then you had to have the. I would say that Pulp Fiction doesn't have quite as obvious a twist. It's just twisty and turny, but it certainly begat films like The Sixth Sense and Memento. And
Well, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah,
I hope
me
you're
too,
going to be
man.
able to, and you have a
I
busy
will.
life.
Yes, I know.
But I'll be there, and I'm hoping to see it. And you know what reminded me now?
Yeah.
Tarantino is just imbued with American cinema. I wonder why that is. Could it be that he worked at a video store?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you work at Aardvark?
I did. I spent, you know, many penniless years at Aardvark Video.
All right.
That's good.